For the last few years, I have been traveling around Europe with this car, for which I had created a system that allowed me to fit a bed for 2 people inside. This system was getting too small for us, so I sold the car and I bought a small van. I decided to buy the NV200 from Nissan, since its dimensions would allow me to use it both as a camper and as an everyday life vehicle. Inside, you could put drawers, a battery system, an interior table, cabinets, clean and grey water tanks, a sink that can be converted into an outdoor shower, a chemical toilet, and a sofa that can be converted into a double bed. All this while preserving the capacity to carry from 2 to 5 people. If you want to know how I did all this, join me in this series of episodes where I will detail the entire process. I learned a lot making the cabinets in the previous chapter, which were my first woodworking project. That's why this time, with a more complicated project, I planned what I wanted to do ahead of time, drawing the plans and transferring them to the wood. Once all the cuts in the wood were marked, we got to work. With all the pieces ready, we began to assemble the bed by the frame and the legs. Here you can see how the frame was assembled, with the side guides on which the slats move, the corner adapted to the wall of the van, and the hole in the leg for the rear belt. The slats are divided into 2 types, the odd ones, which do not move, and the even ones, which do move thanks to a strip that moves along the side guides and another front strip. In this step, I measure and cut the mobile strip and another one in which the odd-numbered slats will remain fixed. The fixed strip will be angled 45 degrees at the end to fit into the corner of the frame. Here you can see the fixed strip, the mobile strip that moves through the side guides, and finally the front strip that has its own legs. Next, I cut the slats. I made them quite thick, which means that once the bed is opened, there are large spaces between them. To counteract this, I made a mattress of quite a density, so they are not very noticeable, but I would recommend making them a little bit narrower. I glued the odd number slats, the first one being the one with the corner angle. I did this leaving below the mobile strip to which the even slats will be glued. Next, I glued the even slats to the mobile strip and to the front strip with legs, uniting this way the assembly that allows the bed to open and close. Here you can see how the system works. For the upper part, I reused part of the plywood that I used as a bed in the car that I had camperized. This part, which folds thanks to a piano hinge, it's the one that will rest on the folded rear seats, or, in their absence, on removable wooden legs. I'm glad to be able to reuse this plywood, as it's a way to keep taking part of my old camper car with me. The upper extension rests on a support bar that I glued and screwed to make sure it would support the weight well. I also modified this leg to add a ledge for the plywood to rest on as well. One thing I realized traveling by car is that you can't just sleep in the top of a piece of wood. The wood must have holes through which the heat and humidity generated by sleeping can pass through. The end result is light enough to be carried by one person, and as you can see, it fits perfectly with the shape of the van and leaves room for the rear belt. The height at which the bed is was determined by the height of the folded rear seats. If it had been made lower, the rear seats could not be carried, which was an essential part of this camperization. What you see here is the first version I made of this bed. Later in this series of episodes, I will explain how I replaced the legs with cabinets with drawers, which allowed me to make more efficient use of the available space.